Good afternoon and welcome to Muskegon Rotary. That was a true Muskegon standing ovation. It sort of worked its way forward. But you're up. Yay. Today, our theme for the month of March is water and sanitation. Our program this afternoon is the Muskegon County Housing Assessment Needs Analysis. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a reflection from Bill Locksterman. And we will recite the four-way test at the end of the meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Locksterman, I will start with a moment of silence. Before we have our reflection, I ask for this moment of silence for a former Rotarian, Robert Buzz Kurzman, who passed away on February 26. He was a great community leader, and his obituary was in our most recent edition of the RIM. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, please do so. So a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Bill? We'll do the little waltz here.
I'd like to offer a prayer for short meetings. Now remember, I come from the field of education where we had multiple meetings every day, so let us pray. Lord of us all, in a world of endless meetings, we pray for brevity. May discussions be as concise as a haiku and decisions made with the swiftness of a cheetah chasing its lunch. Grant us the gift of reclaiming precious time, which we solemnly swear not to squander on social media scrolling. With grateful hearts, we shall savor the moments of freedom your grace provides. Amen. Amen.
Yeah. Please sit down and enjoy your moment of fellowship. We will resume at 12:20.
My friend Susan Neston.
I hope you've enjoyed your time of fellowship, especially after the reflection. I am very cognizant of that, but we do have to get going. We are going to start with our video for our Rotary Foundation moment. And if Mike would please play the video.
He actually spent the first 15 years bringing wells and hand pumps to communities around Haiti. But over those 15 years, we constantly struggled to keep the wells operational. The best practices at the time were about community engagement. If they then organized themselves, then we would come drill a well, and they would be responsible for managing it. And we had all different solutions. We had paid a guy to go around and fix the wells, set people up in business and train them. And we still struggle keeping the wells operational. In 2004, I decided I wanted to know how big a problem it was. So I sent a guy out on motorcycle with a GPS unit and a little survey form, and he visited close to 1,000 wells. And when we looked at the data, it showed us that only half of the wells were working. Basically, 50% of everything I'd done in 15 years was lost. It sounds hard, but I've since discovered that that's the same success rate that everyone in the world has. And so we changed our game to be one of training the communities to essentially create a business plan. They collect around 50 US cents per household per month. To date, they have something like 85,000 US dollars in savings towards the repair of their wells. That's been a fantastic thing. Overnight, like one well to the next. Now the success rate jumped to 90% of the wells working. After about 10 years having that kind of success rate, we asked, how would we know when everyone had access to water and sanitation? So we went out and created a map. We mapped every house in Haiti, every well, every spring, every water system, and have that available online. So not only do we have a crazy high success rate with the wells being operational, but we've used this to plan and build a system bringing water and sanitation to everyone. That's the kind of ownership and powerful tools that we can bring to the game. If there's any organization that can do it, I think Rotary is the one.
I thought that was a timely video to show you, given the current situation in Haiti and how fragile infrastructure can be. This is a Rotary effort that's independent of the hand wash one that I talk about, but it's the same format, you know, community, local involvement and oversight. So I thought I better do it because the time worked. At this point, we're going to do our guests and visiting Rotarians. Claire was ready to go. I threw her a curveball, sorry, Claire. And so if everyone with their guests could please come forward for introductions. We just are really looking forward to seeing your guests and you. So.
Who wants to be first? We can go first. Head toward the pink. Yep. Get your marks. I'm Marcia Hovey-Wright, and my guest today is Jessica Cook, fellow commissioner representing North Muskegon and a little bit of Fruitport and Laketon Township. And anyway, she's been a great addition to our commission. So thank you.
Photo first.
Oh, okay.
AJ knows the drill. All right, thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I have with me from the Muskegon County Continuum of Care and United Way of the Lakeshore, our Housing and Homeless Coordinator, Madison Butler.
Good afternoon. I'm Annette Jack, and my guest today is Joel Lautenbach. Joel is the Executive Director of Affordable Housing Development for Samaritas.
Hello, everybody. With me today, I have a legend, Catherine Nash, who has been involved in a lot of things in the community, but I wanted to point out that she has been with the West Michigan Student Showcase for 43 years. And this is the 43rd year for the showcase, which is happening next week, by the way, at the Fronthal. She's also a retired teacher. Her husband was a former Rotarian president, past president, and she's been to Rotaries all over the world. So.
Hello, my name is Brandon Turnbull. I have with me today Andrew Meteskin, an estate attorney with Gravis Law, here to enjoy lunch.
Hello, I'm Marla Schneider. I'm President and CEO of Greater Muskegon Economic Development. And with me today is Briasia Battle. She is our new Marketing and Events Manager. She also does wedding planning on the side, so any...
Hello, Myra Dutton from HGA Support Services, and my guest today is Kara Novak from the United Bank. She is the Vice President of Business Development and Treasury Management, and she is also very involved in finding affordable housing solutions for people in our community and across the Lakeshore.
Good afternoon, Rotary. All right. We have the students today who have traveled the farthest to get here, so I respect quite a bit of cheering today because Ravenna Bulldogs are in the house. To introduce two of the future legends from Ravenna is Tia Filippelli. She is the counselor at the high school.
Yeah, so he said, I am Tia Filippelli. I'm the school counselor at Ravenna Public Schools. And it's very easy to choose these two students. I have Caleb Jonas with me and Kendra Denhoff. They are seniors at Ravenna right now.
Hi, my name is Caleb. My plans for after high school, I'm planning to go to the University of Michigan for political, go blue, go blue. for political science. I am currently in 3 different sports. I am the captain on every single one of my sports, and I am the captain of our robotics program and our class president.
Hi, I'm Kendra Denoff. After high school, I'll be attending Nova Southeastern University, which is a private college down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'll be studying sonography to hopefully be an ultrasound tech. In high school, I'm the secretary of our National Honor Society, vice president for our student council, and I'm involved in 3 sports. Right now, I'm in softball. So, yeah.
Welcome to all our guests. We're delighted to have you with us, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the program and the meeting too, sorry. Mark Eisenbarth is going to introduce our speaker for today. Mark? Get my stuff out of the way.
Thank you. Is that good? Shut up a little bit. Good afternoon, everybody. Mark Eisenbarth, County Administrator. Today, I want to say the Greater Muskegon Economic Development and Community Foundation in Muskegon County went together to help bring in an individual, which is standing right to my right here, to talk about and how we can improve our housing. As you've heard, either through the chamber or other communications, the housing shortage. So I'll do the introduction and get on with the presentation. Ryan Kirkpatrick is the founder and the owner of Flywheel Communication Service. He has 18 years experience with public facilitation, planning, zoning, best practices, housing finance, and design thinking for social innovation. He has a background in housing, which includes market rate, workforce, affordability, emergency shelter services, as well as in economic development tools, incentives, and grants available to support both housing and mixed-use development at preferred price points. Ryan also has a deep background in community engagement, urban and regional planning, economic development. He is certified planner of the American Institute of Certified Planners and certified economic development financial professionals in the National Development Council. So let's welcome Ryan. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Okay, that's all right. Good afternoon. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This is a really fun crowd. Clearly, you are one of the best Rotaries in Michigan. I've been to a lot of them. I'm very impressed. So as Mark mentioned, I've got a long background in housing and economic development. I ran an organization called Housing Next for about 5 years, which serves Kent and Ottawa counties. And now I'm really proud and excited to be able to branch out and serve more and more awesome communities like Muskegon. So what I'm going to do this afternoon, and I both in recognition of the reflection and this really bright timer that's in front of me, I'm going to try to go relatively quickly through this information. There's data, but I'm trying to ground the data in story, and we'll see how good I am at that. But what I first want to really talk about with you guys is the mismatch that we have between supply and demand in the housing market. And to be honest with you, Muskegon is actually a little bit behind the rest of the curve in West Michigan. So as Grand Rapids and Holland and kind of the broader West Michigan area have grown in terms of jobs, both Grand Rapids and the Lakeshore in Ottawa County got super pricey really fast. Average new home sales are now around $475,000 in that marketplace. New rental product, a new 2-bedroom apartment now rents for about $1,800 a month. Who's paying less than $1,800 a month for their mortgage right now? Right? Can you imagine renting a 2-bedroom apartment for more than your mortgage? That's what our young workforce is facing as they graduate from college, as those 2 high school students think about going to U of M and Fort Lauderdale and then coming back. We want to bring them back home to Muskegon, right? And when they come back home to Muskegon, we want them to have homes that they can afford, right? So our goal is to help people understand the mismatch between supply and demand. And because I spent that much time talking about what I just did, I'm not going to talk through this graph. But you get it. When we don't have enough supply in the marketplace, prices go up. When we have an abundance of supply in the marketplace, prices at least stabilize. Sometimes they even come down a little bit. So as we're thinking about our regional workforce, how many people are business owners in the audience today? Great, good handful. How many people are associated or part of the HR department in their organization? A couple. How many people do some hiring and firing? Okay, quite a few. Has anybody in the room tried to hire somebody in the last 2 years and found that housing was a barrier to hiring talent? A handful, okay. So what we have found over the last 5-6 years is more and more of our regional employers, and that includes our public education system, our local units of government, sometimes the road commission, as well as for-profit entities, are all having a hard time hiring individuals to move into the market if they can't find a place to live, right? And this is becoming an increasingly problematic issue. But it's not just about housing. It's also about creating a strong sense of belonging. Right? What we're not doing is saying, all right, if we build enough boxes for people to live in, we will have been successful. What we're saying is we want to build neighborhoods and communities where people of all incomes, all backgrounds, and all family sizes can afford to live, right? And so that's got to be financially sustainable. And in a few minutes, I'm going to talk a little bit about what does it actually cost to build housing and what's the difference between what it costs to build and what people can actually afford. But we want everybody to have a really high quality of life. And so really briefly, in Michigan, the average teacher who's been working 15 years, often has a master's degree, is earning $60,000 to $75,000 a year. They're just barely priced out of the median home sale price in Muskegon County. So to afford the median in Muskegon County right now, you've got to be prepared to spend about $1,700 a month on mortgage, plus taxes, plus insurance. And keep in mind, interest rates right now are at 6.8%. Right? So for a 30-year mortgage, you're paying a lot of interest. Now, also important are EMTs, our nurses, our firefighters, our police officers, the folks who keep us safe and healthy, are often earning incomes that don't allow them to spend more than $1,000 a month on rent. And yet the average price of a 2-bedroom in Muskegon County is about $1,050 a month. And for new construction, it's closer to $1,500 a month. Again, pharmacy tech, priced out of the marketplace. So this is a really interesting data point, and it's often, it takes a few times repeating this before people really start to get it. From basically 1945 until now, most of our housing stock has been built with the assumption that the vast majority of households living in homes were going to be a mom, a dad, 2 kids, and a dog. Right? We have designed our housing ecosystem around the Cleaver family. Leave it to Beaver. Unfortunately, since about the early 2000s, the majority of households are now either single adults or 2 adults with no children at home. And I want you to think about, actually, I want you to look around the room now. Look at your neighbors, look at the folks at your table. What we're seeing in the marketplace is a lot of empty nesters whose kids have finally grown up and finally moved out of the house, right? They're doing great. We're so proud of them. And we've got a lot of Gen Z and millennials who are just moving into the housing marketplace and they're not having kids yet. And what we're finding is because those millennials and Gen Z are just moving into the marketplace, they've got student debt. They're still trying to figure out what they're doing with their career. They're not interested in trying to get married or settle down. They're trying to make a life for themselves first. It's the reverse of how it used to work, right? It's first establish your career, decide where you want to live, get grounded and rooted in that place, and then begin a family. And so many younger adults aren't starting families until their early 30s. And that's about 8 to 10 years later than occurred 30 and 40 years ago. And so we've all got all these singles and 2 adult households out there in the marketplace who are competing for basically nothing other than single family homes, right? And so we have this big mismatch between the housing supply that's available, mostly single family homes, mostly 1,800 to 3,600 square feet, and the number of single adults and 2 adult households who actually want housing in the marketplace. So in Muskegon County, the big bar on the right is the number of 1- and 2-person households, and the little bar on the left is the number of studio and 1-bedroom apartments. Now, for those of you who are empty nesters, I'm not trying to force you into a studio apartment, don't worry. But for those of you who are Gen Z and millennials and you want to move into someplace in Muskegon County that you can actually afford, and you don't have to have 6 roommates in order to afford it with, that studio apartment or that 1-bedroom apartment is critical to attracting that younger workforce into the marketplace. So why don't we have enough of that product? Well, the first reason is the Great Recession. Great Recession essentially eviscerated our construction market. We lost half of our construction workforce in a matter of about 4 years. They either moved south or moved into different job opportunities. But the other thing is, this is essentially what we require at the local government. For the most part, most of the land that is zoned residential, everybody know what zoning is? Yep, only one guy raised his hand, by the way. Zoning essentially is the law that says this is what you're allowed to build in a particular neighborhood. Most of our zoning says this is the residential part of town, this is the commercial part of town, that's the industrial part of town. In the residential part of town, what we tend to do is say big single-family homes over here, apartments over here. Never the two shall mix, right? What we have tried to do really intentionally through regulation is not allow different incomes and household sizes to live in the same neighborhood. Why we're doing this, I'm not entirely sure, but that's the way things are codified. So what young adults actually want, and I'm not going to try to speak for those of you who are empty nesters, but increasingly what I hear from AARP, what I hear from the National Association of Realtors, what we're hearing from a lot of national organizations is that there are plenty of empty nesters who are ready to downsize and finding that there's nothing of interest in the marketplace. Right? And so when the product that's available in the marketplace is really more of the same, more of kind of what you grew up with your family, and there's not an alternative that allows you to have a master suite on the main floor at a price that costs you less than your existing home, the chances of you downsizing are relatively small. But if you don't downsize empty nesters, those young families that are forming now don't have that older, more naturally occurring affordable housing stock to move into. And so there's this bottleneck. And what we need to start to be able to do is create more housing types at a greater variety of price points in neighborhoods where we have infrastructure, right? Because the other big thing is that we don't want to continue to expand infrastructure out into our rural places. How many people live in a rural environment? Okay, for those of you who live in a rural environment, how excited would you be if I said we were going to build a 500 home neighborhood next door to you? Right? Would you want to come to that public hearing with me? Right? So, and this is the other thing that we really struggle against is when the only place we can build new housing is on the outskirts of town, where we have to spend $1 million or more to bring infrastructure to that place. The people who do live in that neighborhood say, whoa, 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 whoa. We moved out here to kind of get away from the city, right? We spent extra money to have a little more land, to not have to have a whole lot of neighbors. And yeah, the broadband's not great out here, but we're okay with that because we wanted this style of life. When we start to bring all of that infrastructure out further, it forces additional services, it forces additional taxes into those places, it spreads people out farther, which adds traffic to the roads, because they're all still going to drive into town to go to work or to go to the grocery store. And so it really changes the quality of life for everybody, and it's not great for anybody. But when we do have infrastructure in the ground, and we have vacant lots, or we have lots that are underdeveloped, think about all of our commercial corridors, where you've got 5 acres in a Jiffy Lube, right? Or you've got 3.5 acres in an Arby's, right? These are the opportunities where we can start to create infill, where we can start to create new neighborhoods adjacent to places where we have older neighborhoods with naturally occurring affordable housing. This 100-year-old little house is probably the most affordable housing option. Joel, who's the executive director of real estate for Samaritas, if you didn't hear that earlier, Joel is in the business of building new housing. And talk to Joel a little bit after this session, and I want you to get a sense of what does it cost them to build something brand new versus what does it cost us to preserve something that's older, and you might still have to put up with some weird wallpaper that somebody put in the 1970s, but it's far less expensive than new construction. So when we talk about what is actually affordable, oftentimes what we find in the marketplace is folks who aren't in the housing industry hear affordable, and what they think is subsidized, government run, the projects, right? We get a lot of stigma when we talk about affordable housing. What's important to know is affordable is a relative term that is based on your income. So if you earn $100,000 a year, affordable means you're not spending more than $30,000 a year on housing. How many people are spending $30,000 a year on housing? Very few, right? A couple though. If you're earning $35,000 a year, you shouldn't be spending more than about $11,000 a year on housing. Either way, those are both housing options that are affordable based on your income. And so what we're trying to do is say, all right, if you earn $25,000 a year, that's about minimum wage. We need to have options in the marketplace that are actually affordable to you, right? If you're earning $50,000 a year, we need to have options in the marketplace that are actually affordable to you. Now, the problem is, and I don't know how many of you can actually read this, if we're going to try to build a brand new housing unit that is affordable to somebody earning minimum wage, the amount of subsidy necessary to make that housing unit affordable is extraordinary. It's about $160,000. That's just got to be straight grant, philanthropy, subsidy of some sort, because the cost of new construction is so high. Now, we'll get to that in just a minute. If you're earning $50,000 a year, we need a significantly smaller subsidy, but we probably, in today's market, still need a little bit of subsidy, and we need some regulatory flexibility. We need to remove a little bit of the red tape to make it easier to build smaller housing product that is sometimes attached or even multi-story. My timer isn't working, by the way, so I have no idea how long I've been doing this.
15 minutes in.
All right, so that means I have 5 minutes left, I think. So here's the quick gist. If we need to support individual households who can afford no more than $600 a month, we need a $160,000 subsidy or $1,300 a month every year for 20 years, or every month for 20 months. Now, here's the other thing is we have lots of people who say, you know what, everybody deserves to be a homeowner. We want all people to get into homeownership at some point. I love the theory and the ideology behind that. How many people use the home that they own as a source of wealth? How many people assume that the equity in your home is going to create wealth and support your retirement over the long term? Okay. The only way that works is if not everybody is a homeowner, right? It is the scarcity of housing that creates that equity. If everybody had a home that they could own, your value would not go up, it would go down because the actual building depreciates, right? The only reason your home value goes up is because not everybody gets one. And I'm not making a judgment about whether that's the right system to have or not, but it's the system we currently have. And so then when we say, all right, we want more people to become homeowners and more people to become homeowners who can afford only $900 a month, that's a $208,000 subsidy for a household that's earning about $50,000 a year. Because the average cost to build a new single family home right now is about $360,000. So if we wanted to support just 1,000 renters in Muskegon County who are earning minimum wage, we would need to have a subsidy of $160 million in order to support 1,000 renters. I'm 1,000,000% in favor of ensuring that families that need it get subsidies. I think the point of this is to say we should ensure that far fewer families need subsidies. We've got to be doing a lot more work to ensure that we don't have to subsidize all these households, to ensure that they have access to housing opportunities in the marketplace that are good choices in good neighborhoods for anybody that wants to live there, and simultaneously working on making sure that people have good access to good jobs. So if we can't afford to subsidize everybody who needs a subsidy, what can we do to reduce housing costs? Well, this is where a lot of this work comes in. What we've got to do is understand what makes housing so expensive. And in the local regulatory environment, we have control over all 5 categories of housing costs: land, construction, design, permitting, and financing. All of those things can be influenced through local zoning. Now, what we can't do is zone our way into affordability. If we just change zoning, it still doesn't bring down the cost of construction and it doesn't bring down the cost of financing. And so there are other tools that we have to pair with zoning. We've got to think about When are we willing to provide a tax incentive from the local unit of government? City of Muskegon is doing a lot of work in this regard. I think some of the townships in Muskegon Heights are doing some work in this regard. Offering a payment in lieu of tax. When Joel comes knocking and says, we're going to build affordable senior housing in Muskegon, if the tax requirement for each housing unit is $4,500 a year, it's super hard to make those units affordable. And so we've got to have some kind of a tax incentive for a period of time. But also thinking about impact investment from the community. And by impact investment, what I mean is we've got folks in this room right now who represent organizations who need to invest capital year over year, because you're not going to spend all of the capital that you have on your balance sheet. And you could invest it in the marketplace where it goes someplace else and earns somewhere between 6 and 8% rate of return, and then it comes back to you when you need it, and you can spend it on infrastructure or whatever you need. Part of what we want to be able to do is create an investment vehicle for you to invest in housing right here in Muskegon County and still earn a rate of return, but ensure that we're building more housing more affordably when we're pairing it with some of these tax incentives and with zoning reform. And so part of the conversation going forward is, how do we do all three of those things simultaneously? How do we think about regulatory reform? How do we think about tax incentives where appropriate? And how do we galvanize impact investment into the marketplace? Now, normally I would talk about this next slide and there'd be 5 or 6 more slides, but in honor of the reflection earlier, I'm gonna save that. I know I've seen a handful of you who have come to see me talk in other places. This won't be the last time I'm in the community. So for anybody that wants to talk about this afterwards, I'm more than happy to, and I'll yield my time to questions.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm Don Hutchins with Green Ridge Realty. I've been in the real estate business quite a while. Well, not a plug, but a response. We have 2 ends of the spectrum we're working with right now, Adelaide Point, which a lot of people know, and Ellis Landing out at near the airport. The Ellis Landing, those are manufactured mobile homes in a park that start at $149 and go up to $200. You pay a lot fee, but at Green Ridge, we'll work with you. We have open houses. I'll be in my open house from 11 to 2 on Saturday. I have several relatives and associates in this room of Rotarians that have been out there and we're working with right now. So it is an option, just so people know, okay?
Is there a question in there?
The question was, how else do we fill that need other than what I said?
Yeah, okay, great question. So those are 2 outstanding for sale price options, right? Adelaide Point. I think one of the things that I didn't talk about is when we don't, so Adelaide Point is going to be a high-end market rate development, if I'm not mistaken, right? Here's what's important about that. When we don't build market rate housing, it doesn't mean that market rate renters and buyers go away, right? What they do is buy older housing stock and fix it up, right? And so we're seeing this in a lot of high demand marketplaces. People can't find the house they want brand new, and so they're buying a 50-year-old house and then putting another $150,000 into it. And so it's really important that we have that new product. Even when people call it luxury, it's still pulling people out of that secondary market and reducing competition. So that's one. The manufactured housing is great. I love it. We need to do more of that. It's super hard to get that kind of product zoned in certain places. Again, there's stigma against it unnecessarily, especially now because it's a high quality product. And as I mentioned earlier, I want everybody who wants to be a homeowner to get to be a homeowner, right? Eventually, we want everybody to move into homeownership at some point. And in the meantime, we've got to have more rental options, right? We've got to have more opportunities in our neighborhoods with good access to education and good access to jobs. Historically, what we've done is said the apartments go where nobody else wants to be, right? We put the apartments on the edge of town or next to the highway in the places in the neighborhoods where homeowners tend not to live. That's unfair to renters. It makes a lot of assumptions about who renters are and how they behave. And it's unfair to the neighborhoods, right? Because when we create isolated pockets of renters, What you're not creating is a ladder of economic opportunity. What you're not doing is showing people this is the next option in your neighborhood, right? You don't have to move across town in order to buy a house or in order to take a step up in the marketplace. We want all those options to be integrally mixed into each neighborhood.
Ryan, thanks for bringing your expertise and enthusiasm to Muskegon County. Finally, sir. There's a group called Threads. It's a grassroots-based organization that is into making sure we're not gentrifying.
Yeah.
And they are looking at a community land trust. Could you briefly tell us what that is? And should that be something we explore here in Muskegon?
Yeah, so a community land trust essentially is a nonprofit or governmental organization that owns the land under the building, right? And so what you can then do is sell the building via a mortgage, right? If you want homeowners, you sell the building, but you don't sell the land. You maintain ownership of the land via a nonprofit. And what that means is you're removing the cost of the land from the purchase price for the individual homeowner. Depending on the neighborhood, the cost of that land could be $30,000, $50,000, sometimes up to $80,000 for the land. And so by not adding that on to the cost of the purchase price, you're reducing their overall monthly payments. Now, over the long term, what happens with a community land trust is the homeowner builds less equity than they would in a traditional fee simple homeownership option, but they build far more equity than they would if they were renters. Right? And so what this does essentially is it creates a new rung on the ladder of economic opportunity above renting and just below fee simple homeownership. It's a great stepping stone into traditional homeownership. So yeah, highly encourage it. Yes, she said, and it maintains affordability. The land trust can essentially ensure that both the current homeowner and future homeowners are income certified, so that what we're not getting is the first homeowner needs affordable housing, but the second homeowner is a doctor and a dentist, right?
So Dave Mettendorf, I'm a realtor. So do you have any ideas for the uncapping of taxes? So like a guy here could live in a $500,000 house and he wants to use some of that money to live on, so he buys a $300,000 house and his taxes might have been $4,000 on his $500,000 house, and now he goes down to $300,000 and he's paying $8,000. So he's got all this overhead. Do you have any ideas for that?
Not good ones. And this is a really serious problem, and this gets back to the idea of empty nesters who kind of feel like, you know, we're really sort of financially stuck in this house. We've got a ton of equity, but there are no good options to move into that are going to cost less than the house we're in today. And so there are tax incentive programs that a local unit of government could adopt if they wanted to, but generally they're targeted for income qualified households who don't have a lot of assets. Right? And so I think the individual you're talking about has a lot of assets, right? That if they own a $500,000 house, that when it comes uncapped, even if they step down in the marketplace to a $300,000 house, they're going to have a lot of equity that they can carry over and probably wouldn't be eligible for a tax abatement. And so we don't have a good solution for that problem. But I will say that the legislature right now in Michigan is aware of it, and we've got some helpful legislators who are thinking about it and working on it, but I haven't yet seen a proposal that makes a ton of sense. Sorry.
Hi, Ryan. Whoa, that's really loud. Nice to see you again, and always great to hear your presentations. I really wanted to kind of highlight our last conversation when you talked about accessory buildings and how that could be a benefit. There's some really great pockets in Muskegon that are rezoned, so it's uniform already. And that might be something that can be utilized, if you could share a couple details.
Yeah, for sure. Who used to watch Happy Days? Yep. Remember the Fonz? Where did the Fonz live? Upstairs of what? Above the garage. Yep. That's an accessory dwelling unit. So that's a little apartment that lives in the backyard. The Fonz can live there. Or it could be a smaller house, smaller home in the backyard where your mother-in-law might live. Just anecdotally, when my wife and I had our first child, we were a little overwhelmed, right? And so Her mom would drive up from Battle Creek every day, 5 days a week, to help, like, just be a new mom, right? And it was super important for us, but it was stressful for my mother-in-law to make that drive back and forth every day. And neither of us were super excited about mom moving into our house. It just felt, like just 10 feet of separation would have been nice. So had we been allowed to build a little building in our backyard where my mother-in-law could stay and have a kitchen and get up whenever she wanted, would have been glorious. It all worked out fine. But think about some of the families that do want to have young kids that need live-in daycare, right? Anybody aware of what it costs to send your kid to daycare today? It's like $1,200, $1,300 a month. So if you've got a family member who could move in to that accessory dwelling unit, you could both probably earn a little bit of income, right? Charge a little bit of rent, and have live-in daycare. Or if you're a first-time homeowner and you say, you know what, I can barely afford this mortgage, and I'm a single adult, or we're a couple and the house is bigger than we need it to be, being able to sublet either a room or being able to sublet a whole portion of the house so that you can earn a little money. This was the American story prior to the 1950s, right? Almost everybody at some point either owned and sublet a portion of their house or sublet a portion of somebody else's house while they made their way up the economic ladder. We literally don't allow for that anymore in most neighborhoods. And we've got to start thinking about how do we have multi-generational housing? How do we allow for people to generate additional sources of wealth off the housing that they do own? I will tell you, as it relates to accessory dwelling units, we have plenty of residential square footage in our community, right? There are more than enough bedrooms and bathrooms out there. What we don't have is enough individual units for people to live in. So for all of us that have 2,500, 3,500 square feet, and there's just one or two of us spooking around in that big place, not to say that you want to necessarily sublet a part of your house, but if just 1% of people with that amount of square footage said, you know what, I think we will put in a second kitchen and we'll kind of divide up the house and have a separate unit, and we can rent it to Joe's kid, right? If 1% of households were willing to do that, it would have a significant impact on the overall market.
Last question.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. Nick Green with Route 31. I'll take some of the heat off you empty nesters. I'd be curious to hear your input on how short-term vacation rentals have an impact on these numbers as well.
Yeah, we're joking here. This feels like a sore subject around here. Hot topic, very good. So seasonal rentals absolutely have an impact on the marketplace. They have an impact on affordability. I mean, the basic math, if I can earn more rent in 4 months out of the year than I can earn in 12, why wouldn't I rent a place for 4 months out of the year? Now, the downside is there's a lot more property management, maintenance, it's higher touch to do seasonal rentals, but generally you can make more money doing it. And so I think it's really important that local municipalities think hard about where they're going to allow seasonal rentals, what the requirements are. I personally have the belief that short-term and seasonal rentals should essentially pay the same lodging tax that hotels and motels do. They're offering generally the same service. Probably lots of people want to argue about that, and I would love to have a debate later. But essentially, short-term rentals do remove some amount of housing stock from the marketplace. And when we have a scarcity of housing supply, that's a bad thing. So we have to either build a whole lot more housing and make most of it available to year-round residents, or we have to do a lot better job of restricting the housing that we do have to make sure that our year-round residents have access first.
Thank you so very much. A lot taller than me. Thank you so much for your presentation and your graciousness taking so many questions. For your presentation today, we are going to be making a contribution to Hand Wash. Hand Wash is a cooperative initiative between Terra Nueva and Haiti and Champion Rotary District 6290 to provide clean water, sanitation, and hygiene in rural areas of Haiti. So we're addressing a housing need there too. So thank you for your presentation. It is birthday time. We are celebrating on St. Patrick's Day Eileen Stoffen, Be sure to wear green, Eileen. Edward Alexander on March 18th, Kathy Brubaker Clark, March 19th, and Tim Lipan on March 20th. We wish you all a happy birthday. We wish you will give us $10. And, and we, like I said, me not singing is worth every penny of it, so keep that in mind. Our spotlight video today features a Rotarian that you will recognize easily.
I'm Dave Alexander. I am a proud Muskegon Rotarian. I, for 34 years, worked at Muskegon Chronicle and M Live. The last 7 years or so, I was downtown manager, so it's a second career, and finishing off my time with the city of Muskegon, where I work as a community engagement specialist. Ever since I came to Muskegon in 1981, I have been very much attuned to our water resources. I came here obviously for a job, but I also came here for the recreational pursuits, and that's really some of that which has kept Peg and I in town. So I'm a sailor, I'm a kayaker, a boater, but from a professional standpoint, I also wrote a lot about the water, not as much from an environmental standpoint, but from a business standpoint. I am very much in tune to the waterfront development and have been for decades on Muskegon Lake. And the story that tells from the lumbering era through the industrial era, now through what I would call the quality of life era, is really the heart of, I think, who we are in Muskegon. As I look forward to a year in 2025 and 2026, as a president of Muskegon Rotary Club, I will take a look at a theme of environment, climate, and sustainability as that relates to water. And that's specifically what drives us here in those types of topics in Muskegon.
Thank you for that, Dave. We have no inductions today or any Paul Harris Fellow Awards to do, but we do have announcements. And I know a few people are going to be making in-person announcements, and if you could gather over here, that would be great, and we'll just keep this rolling along. So next week, on March 21st, we will spring back, see what I did there, to the Delta for our meeting. We're not here, we're back at the Delta. And this evening, Rewind will not be meeting. And I have a video for the next announcement. So if you could play that. Well, next year is here. Andrew, you didn't come up for this, so if you want to, you can come up and do the honors, or you can let me just keep rolling, which I will do. We have a date for our Party in the Park for 2024. Our party is Friday, May 31st. You have permissions to get your phone out and put that in your calendar because we want to see you all there. As you can see, it takes a village to put one of these on. And I know Andrew will welcome your volunteering to help on that date. So thanks so much. So Meredith, looks like you're up first.
We are ready for some March Madness this month. So there is a clipboard going around. If anybody wants to sign up for a chance to win a Paul Harris Fellow, we will be giving away 3. 2 winners, one for the women's bracket, one for the men's bracket. And then we will take everyone who participated and do a random drawing for the 3rd. And you will also get credit as a donation to the Rotary Foundation. So everybody that participates, you've met your obligation. Thank you.
Thank you. And so did you. Nancy.
All right, Nancy McCarthy here. Wanting to remind you about Firekeeper's Daughter. I know many of you have the book and hopefully you're reading it and are finding it very, very informative. It's a great story. It's kind of a page turner if you haven't started the book. And it really is a powerful story that explores the different things like culture, identity, family, justice, and how that impacts Native Americans today. And we've got a great program coming up for you on the 29th, and you'll actually hear from 2 of our Native American Rotarians. So it should be a great program. I also want to remind you that the author, Angeline Boley, will be here in Muskegon on April 17th, and she will be speaking at 6 p.m. At Orchard View High School Auditorium. And you can sign up for that there's a little card on your table. There's a QR code. You can sign up that way or go to the Mattel website and sign up. And it's a free evening and it should be very informative. So keep reading and we'll see you soon.
You don't have to do a book report. No problem there. Tim.
I'm Tim Arter. I'm with the PORS Committee and making announcements about various aspects. We're as a committee, trying to answer questions: who, what, where, when, and why. And Ganesh.
Yeah, it's moving and I'm not moving it.
Okay, well, I'll just go forward, and you can catch up with me then. So as a part of that, many of you know that I've served as treasurer for a few years, and generally speaking, when our fundraisers are going on, people were coming up to me as treasurer and says, okay, so this is a lot of fun, but where does all this money go? And so we talk about raising the funds, but I think more often we need to talk about where this money actually goes. And so now with PORS, I get the question, so how much are we going to make? And this year we're hoping to net $6,000 or so. But what's the correlation between PORS and the services that we're doing or who we're giving money to? And so that I had that question as going around in my mind, and I said to myself, well, it's really one large pot of money that we're generating over a year, and to try and capture how we are spending that, it's difficult to say for any one particular event how we are actually spending these dollars. So I mentioned it to Mike a week ago, and I said, can we put together a presentation like that? And he said, sure, we can do that. And so this last weekend, I consulted Christy Nagengas with a few questions and went through the Muskegon Rotary Foundation, the Muskegon Rotary Foundation budget, and came up with a number of items that we are actually spending our money on. So this is what I'm talking about today. As far as PORS, we want you to be generous when you come out to the event, and we will make money, but it's going to be part of the big picture, which is in the past we've had Grape Escape and we've worked on Seaway Run, Party in the Park, which Andrew's going to be heading up, the chili cook-off, PORS, and Harvest Fest. And so, have we caught up there, Mike?
have no idea why it moved.
Yeah.
Where do you want to be?
Nobody's using this.
I understand it. Where do you want to be?
Right at the very beginning, if you can get there. Okay. All right, I think we're there. Okay. Oh, okay. The first slide, why we pour. There we go. Okay. So I just want to now, and I'm a little taken aback here, is why we pour, and I decided to use something metaphorical in terms of why we pour. And you're thinking, well, I'm going to talk about pours, but it's really more. It's bigger than that. In that, what we are as an organization, you know, we found out last Tuesday we're now at 256 people in our club, which is huge. But we do a lot of great things, and I think we need to take credit for the things that we're doing. And so what we have here is, in terms of pouring, metaphorically, we are pouring back into our community. We're pouring back into the international work that we're doing. So it's coming about by doing all of these fundraisers that I mentioned, that we're pouring things back into our community. So that's why we pour. And we have a lot of numbers. Oftentimes people come up to me and say, well, you're a numbers guy, you're a money guy, you just must know where these things are going. Well, I do, but it's more than just dollar numbers that we're looking at. So if you could go on to the next slide, Mike. So we have two organizations. We have our club and we have our foundation, and we talk about them oftentimes in the same sentence. But it's important for you to know that in each of those entities that we have governance. The board of directors are in committees to the number of committees we have help oversee some of the things that we're doing. But if you could move on to the next slide and the next slide. One more. So here's where some of our money is going. And the way I came about these numbers is, again, I mentioned I talked with Christy about it and reviewing the financial statements. We've raised this large amount of money, and here's where we're spending it. And you can see the numbers there, the dollar numbers that we have, but you can see that we are affecting people, lots of people in our community and across the globe. So Reed Muskegon, we provided them $10,000 for their efforts. Next. And then there's El Salvador. We have recently had the chili cook-off, and Esther Rico and your team did a fantastic job of raising funds there. But you can see the faces there, and what's important for you to know is the money that is raised is used for building houses and materials and sanitation. It's not paying for the people who are actually going down there to perform these services. That's coming out of their own pockets. So when you see a budget line item like this, this is really those $7,000 going directly to the people who need it in El Salvador. Next. Life Leadership, that's going to spend about $7,000 this year. And you can see the large number of young adults that it's impacting there. We'll send anywhere from 13 to 17 people, young adults there, to be a part of up to 150 to 200 people. But that $7,000 is providing about $375 per person to be able to attend. So this will have a lasting effect on those individuals who are attending it. And it'll come around and they'll be a part of our community too someday. Next. Youth Exchange, about $5,300. Now, that's primarily, a lot of it is for what we do in helping the students that come into our country. It does not include the students that are leaving us and going outbound. Their families, their friends, the people that they associate with are underwriting that. So we're spending that. Now, one number I want to share with you is Yesterday morning, we had a Rotary meeting at Carmen's, and you may not realize, but one of the hostesses there is, her daughter is in Thailand today. And so I asked her about, I got there early, so I asked her about it, I said, so what kind of an impact is that having on your daughter? And she says, you would not believe it. And she talked about learning the Asian culture, learning Chinese, but just the things that she's going to take away from, she's just gushing about that. That's one individual. So if you take that and you multiply times the number of people that we're impacting, it's huge. Next. Microforest. Oops. These are recent pictures that came by us, and we've been hearing about the Honduras Library, and you can see some pictures there. Now, my understanding, I think I have it correct, is that they don't have public libraries, generally speaking, in Honduras. And we, along with some other Rotarian clubs, are enabling this particular community to have a public library. We had, pardon? School library, I'm sorry. It's a school library, and this is a picture of the inside and the people that attended there, making a huge impact. Again, those dollars are going directly to that library. The people, we had a couple of students, and Sarah, I think she's here, she attended, and that was all out of their pocket. And these dollars that we are generating through our fundraising are going directly to these efforts. Next. The microforest. Now, a lot of numbers on that page in terms of the number of people who participated in that particular effort, but we're out of pocket, we're about $3,000. And you can see the number of man hours that were involved with that day, and there's going to be some announcements coming up on more work that's going to be done there. But a lot of man hours there going towards that. What you don't see is John Knowling pulled together quite a number of people and under very inclement weather, and they received bundles of shrubs and saplings and trees and things of that nature, separated them, planted them, so that they're ready for planting this spring. Now, all that work, the value of all those plants that are going to be planted is $10,000 in terms of market value, and that's how much was significantly saved by him and the group of people that did that. That was our microforest, and again, more volunteerism is going to be coming forward. Do I have another slide, Mike? Yes. I think this is the last one, and food trucks. Food security is a big issue in our community, and in Rotary, we've stepped up and helped try and minimize that impact, and I think Arn's probably going to be talking about it in a minute here. But we will spend, for this one and the last series that we did, we'll spend about $3,000 to provide a number of food trucks for our community. So that gives you some idea of where the dollars are going. More money was spent, but due to the lack of time, we limited to the more significant ones. So that's all I have. Thank you very much, everybody.
You're up. Tim Lipan, come back.
Hello, everybody. Arn Bozart here. I'm just going to be real quick with a couple of updates for you. First of all, I want to thank everyone who signed up last week. We have a great roster of people who have signed up for both the Wednesday, March 27 food truck, which is 2 weeks from yesterday, and then there's a subsequent one is Wednesday, April 24. The main thing I want to clarify, first of all, if you're on the list, great. If you need to remove yourself from the list, just let me know. We can make it work. Timing, a couple of people have asked about this. So if you signed up for a food truck participation, we need to be on site at the church parking lot, Temple Methodist, at 4 p.m. on both days. Volunteers are needed to help with the setup, as well as offloading the truck and whatever comes off of it, and we never quite know until we get there. And then the food drive-through distribution will begin at about 4:30 or soon thereafter as we're ready to go, and we'll have everybody out of there by 5:30 p.m. So those are the basic hours. Keep that in mind. Any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Art. Mr. Lipan, you're up.
Hey,
Yes,
thank
that's
you.
true. Yes,
I didn't know about that. That's why you come to Rotary, right? Dang. Tim Lipan here. Today I'm speaking on behalf of the Rotary Social Committee, and I want to give you an update on what our committee's up to, and maybe give you some opportunities to put some of these special events into your calendar. But I wanted to say, Kathy Nash, Student Showcase, so good to see you. And thank you for all your years of doing one of the best things in Muskegon County, really. It's the coolest thing. Thank you. So the Social Committee has a couple of charges. I won't be too long. One, we want to develop events outside of the regular meetings so we get a chance to get together and socialize and have a little fun. We also like to showcase local businesses and organizations so that where we go is not just social, but it's interesting. And so our committee's been working hard at trying to develop a full annual schedule, and we have it. And I wanted to share some of that with you today. First of all, the first event is going to be March 28th. You can put that in your calendar. And we are going to tour the Indigo Dispensary that's downtown. Yeah. Now, this could be a little bit controversial, but I won't spend, we're going to give you a lot more detail on that, but it's March 28th. So we need to move quickly, and there's limited space there for this tour and this educational opportunity. And so there'll be some kind of a sign up. I think we can only have about 35 people there, but it should be very interesting. Then in June, we're going to do a Rotary night out at the Muskegon Clippers, which we've done in the past. Muskegon Clippers are a baseball team, not a boat. In July, we'll be going to Adelaide Point to see all the new development there and get a tour as well. In September, we're going to visit the Milwaukee Clipper. That's a boat, not a baseball team. And it's the 120th anniversary of the ship. So we'll have tours of that and big fun event there. And then finally, we're going to, in November, go to the Lakeshore Museum Center, or whatever it's called now. And there's a dinosaur exhibit there. And part of the other thing we're always trying to do is have a variety of events that appeal to a variety of Rotarians and their families. This should be a real fun event for the kids if you want to bring those. Don't bring your kids to Indigo.
Words to live by. Thank you, everyone. We are ready for our raffle. Frank, are you still with us? Or is somebody, there you are. Oh, Ed has taken over. What are we drawing for first? $10. $684 for $10. Oh, we have a winner. There we go. Oh, that's Christy. Is that who won? Congratulations, Christy. And what's this for? $5. $774. $5. Draw again. 634. Oh, congratulations, one of our guests. How wonderful. And for $20, that would be me. Thank you. Okay. Next week's program will be improving the lives of justice-involved women. There we go. Sorry, I knew I'd stumble over that one. And if you will rise, we'll recite the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Create some hope in the world, and we are adjourned.